For 2 decades, being on the cover of Madden has been the highest honor a football player could get, and maybe the worst curse too. Some became legends, others tore their ACLs the very next season. Today we're breaking down what happened to every Madden cover athlete, from superstardom to scandal, injury to immortality. You won't believe how many of these guys saw their careers fall apart after landing on that iconic box. If you're excited, be sure to press the like button and comment who you think the curse affected the most. Alright, so the very first cover is something we don't really need to discuss since it was John Madden himself, but it didn't take long for the curse to come to fruition, because just 1 year later in 2001, it started. In 2001, Eddie George graced the cover, coming off a monster 2000 season with over 1,500 rushing yards, 14 total touchdowns, and a trip to the Pro Bowl. George was the heart and soul of the Tennessee Titans. He was a workhorse, tough, durable, relentless, the kind of back who carried defenders like groceries and never missed a snap. But then, the curse hit. That season, George's production dipped. He still put up solid numbers, just over 900 rushing yards, but it was clear something had changed. The burst wasn't there, the hits were piling up, and then came the moment that fans still can't forget. The playoff game against the Ravens. In the fourth quarter, with the game tied, George bobbled a pass, and Ray Lewis snatched it out of midair and took it to the house. That pick six sealed the game, ended the Titans' season, and seemed to mark the start of George's decline. The following years weren't kind. He battled foot and knee injuries, and while he still started every game, his efficiency plummeted. He never averaged more than 3.4 yards per carry again. By 2004, he was out of Tennessee, briefly tried to revive his career in Dallas, and then quietly walked away from the game he once dominated. That was pretty bad, but in 2002 it became even more apparent when it hit Daunte Culpepper. He had just thrown for nearly 4,000 yards, rushed for another 500, and was throwing lasers to Randy Moss like it was a backyard cheat code. Madden put him on the cover that year, and it felt like a no-brainer. He was exciting, electric, and looked like he was about to own the NFC North for the next decade. Then it all fell apart. In his 2002 cover season, Culpepper fumbled an NFL record 23 times, threw 23 touchdowns, but also 23 interceptions, and the Vikings limped to a losing record. To make things worse, he suffered a back injury mid-season and missed the final 5 games. The magic was gone, and suddenly the Madden curse had claimed another victim. Now, to be fair, Culpepper bounced back in 2004 with a career year, nearly 5,000 passing yards, 39 touchdowns, and a Pro Bowl nod, but it didn't last. In 2005, he tore 3 ligaments in his knee, ACL, MCL, and PCL in one play. It was catastrophic. He was never the same. He bounced around after that, Miami, Detroit, Oakland, but his mobility was gone. The deep ball lost its bite, and the league had moved on. Daunte Culpepper had the tools to be an all-time great, but after the Madden cover, it was a slow fade into what could have been. By this point, some people were starting to notice a pattern, but considering the cover athlete in 2003 was a surefire Hall of Famer, many thought it was going to be broken. You won't believe how wrong they were. In 2003, Marshall Faulk graced the cover of Madden, and at the time, he was untouchable. A Super Bowl champ, league MVP, and the centerpiece of the greatest show on turf. Faulk was redefining the running back position. He wasn't just racking up yards. He was catching passes like a wide receiver, scoring at will, and making defenses look like practice squads. He had just put together 4 straight seasons with over 2,000 scrimmage yards. He was elite, and the Madden cover felt like a well-earned crown. But then, the decline hit fast. In his cover season, Faulk missed 2 games with an ankle injury and saw his numbers take a steep dip. His rushing total dropped below 1,000 yards for the first time in 6 years. His signature explosiveness just wasn't there, and for the rest of his career, he never really got it back. Injuries piled up, knees, ankles, back, and even though he remained a productive player for a few more seasons, he was no longer the unstoppable force that broke defenses in half. The Rams went from must-see TV to mediocre almost overnight, and Faulk's touches started getting limited as Steven Jackson took over the backfield. By 2005, Faulk was a backup. By 2006, he was done. As bad as the Madden curse was becoming, nobody could see what was coming for the next cover athlete. When Michael Vick landed on the cover of Madden 2004, it wasn't just hype, it was revolutionary. This was a quarterback who ran a 4.340, had a cannon for an arm, and made NFL defenses look like they were moving in slow motion. Madden 2004. Vick wasn't just the best player in the game, he broke the game. He was the closest thing football had to a real-life superhero. At just 23 years old, the sky wasn't the limit, it was just the starting point, and then it all came crashing down. Before he could even take a snap in the 2003 season, his Madden cover year, Vick broke his fibula in a meaningless preseason game against the Ravens. Just like that, the Falcons lost their franchise player. Vick missed 11 games, and while he returned later that season, the team limped to a 5-11 finish. It was the first real sign that the Madden curse might not be a joke, but the real implosion came later. By 2007, Vick was no longer known as a video game god. He was the center of a national scandal. He was arrested and convicted for running an illegal dogfighting ring, a federal offense that landed him in prison for 21 months and got him suspended indefinitely from the NFL. The man who once electrified crowds was suddenly in a courtroom, disgraced and nearly erased from the league. He eventually made a comeback with the Eagles, flashes of brilliance, a few more Pro Bowls, but he was never that guy again. This next player may actually be one of the few players who managed to avoid the curse altogether. When Ray Lewis became the face of Madden 2005, it felt perfect. The game was all about defense that year, introducing the hit stick, tightening up coverage mechanics, and who better to represent pure defensive dominance than the heart and soul of the Baltimore Ravens? At that point, Ray was already a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl MVP, and the most feared linebacker in football. He didn't just play linebacker, he commanded it. Now, most players who land the Madden cover start seeing ghosts, injuries, scandals, weird stat drops. It's almost tradition. But Ray Lewis? He basically looked at the curse and sticked it into retirement. In his 2004 cover season, Ray didn't rack up interceptions like the year before, but he still totaled over 140 tackles, led one of the top defenses in the NFL, and stayed healthy all year. No major injuries, no off-field drama, just classic Ray Lewis, screaming pre-game speeches, bone-rattling hits, and controlling the middle of the field like a general on a battlefield. The Ravens didn't make the playoffs that year, which is technically a letdown, but if that's the worst the curse can do, Ray beat it. And he kept playing at a high level for years afterward, making more Pro Bowls, more All-Pro teams, and eventually leading Baltimore to another Super Bowl in 2012 before walking away on top. So yeah, Ray Lewis didn't just avoid the curse, he intimidated it. He's living proof that if you hit hard enough, scream loud enough, and lock in like a man possessed, not even Madden's most infamous jinx can touch you. When Donovan McNabb landed on the cover of Madden 06, he was coming off the best season of his career. He'd just thrown for over 3,800 yards, tossed 31 touchdowns, and led the Eagles to the Super Bowl. He had T.O. on one side, Brian Westbrook behind him, and a fan base that finally believed they had their guy. He wasn't just an elite quarterback, he was the guy in Philadelphia. Then came the cover and the unraveling. In his 2005 Madden cover season, McNabb was already dealing with a lingering sports hernia, but being the warrior he was, he tried to play through it. Bad idea. The pain got worse, his performance dipped, and by week 10, he was shut down for the rest of the season. He finished the year with just 9 games played, and the Eagles went from Super Bowl contenders to 6-10 in a blink. But that wasn't the only curse-related chaos. That same year, his feud with Terrell Owens exploded. The locker room split, the media circled like vultures, and Philly became a circus. It was all drama, all the time, and McNabb was stuck at the center, injured, criticized, booed by his own fans. It was a hard fall from the high of the year before. To be fair, McNabb bounced back with a few more productive seasons, but the T.O. debacle, the injuries, and the pressure all seemed to hit him at once right after that cover. He was never quite the same MVP caliber guy again. By 2010, he was traded to Washington. By 2011, out of the league. In 2005, Shaun Alexander was unstoppable. He rushed for a ridiculous 1,880 yards, scored 28 total touchdowns, won NFL MVP, and led the Seahawks to their first ever Super Bowl appearance. He was a touchdown machine, a fantasy football god, and a walking highlight reel. So when Madden slapped him on the 2007 cover, it felt like a well-earned coronation, but the fall came fast. In the 2006 season, his cover year, Alexander broke his foot just just 3 games in. He missed 6 games total, and even when he came back, he wasn't the same. His vision, his power, that signature ability to bounce off tackles, it all looked a step slower. He finished the year with just 896 rushing yards, a massive drop from the MVP numbers he'd posted the year before. Then 2007 hit, and it got worse. He played in 13 games, but barely cracked 700 yards, averaging just 3.5 yards per carry. The Seahawks released him after the season, and just like that, his career was over. From MVP to unemployed in 2 years. The craziest part? He was only 30. No major off-field drama, no locker room issues. Just one injury, followed by a complete physical and statistical collapse. The Madden curse didn't just slow Shaun Alexander down, it ended him. In 2006, Vince Young took the NFL by storm. After one of the greatest college football performances of all time in the Rose Bowl, he was drafted 3rd overall by the Titans and wasted no time making noise. That year, he started 13 games, led Tennessee to an 8-5 record in those starts, and was named Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had it, the confidence, the swagger, the legs, the arm, the comeback wins, the moment. So when EA put him on the cover of Madden 08, it felt like a bet on the league's next big thing. But that bet aged terribly. In the 2007 season, his cover year, Young regressed badly. He threw 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions, and the Titans made the playoffs in spite of him, not because of him. The wheels weren't off yet, but they were starting to wobble. Then came 2008, and everything unraveled. After a rough week 1 performance, Young was booed by the home crowd. He left the stadium without telling anyone, prompting a police search after his mother expressed concern for his mental well-being. The Titans benched him for Kerry Collins, and Young spiraled into a stretch of instability, injuries, and off-field distractions. He'd return later, flash some of his old magic, even go 8-2 as a starter in 2009. But the trust was gone. The consistency never came. By 2011, he was a backup. By 2014, he was out of the league. In 2008, EA Sports did something they'd never done before. They put a retired player on the cover. Brett Farve, after his emotional goodbye from Green Bay, was supposed to be done with football. So Madden 09 celebrated his legendary career with a classic Packers jersey and a farewell spotlight. Problem is, Farve wasn't actually done. Just weeks before the game dropped, Farve unretired and demanded to play. What followed was one of the most chaotic off-seasons in NFL history. A messy breakup with the Packers, public drama, trade rumors flying, and eventually a stunning move to the New York Jets. Suddenly, the Madden cover had a guy in a Packers uniform who was now starting for the Jets. EA had to print stickers to slap over the cover art in stores, because even Madden couldn't keep up with Farve. As for his cover season, it started fine. The Jets were 8-3, Farve was slinging it. People were talking playoffs. Then, bam, torn bicep tendon. He played through it, but his performance tanked. He threw 8 interceptions in the final 5 games, and the Jets collapsed, missing the postseason at 9-7. Head coach Eric Mangini got fired. Favre retired again. Then came the twist, of course. He unretired again in 2009, signed with the Vikings, and had one of the best seasons of his career at 40 years old. So did the Madden curse hit Brett Favre? Not in the traditional sense. He didn't suffer a season-ending injury or fall off completely, but he did experience one of the most chaotic, drama-filled, and physically draining years of his career, and it all started with that cover. In 2009, Troy Polamalu and Larry Fitzgerald were coming off an epic Super Bowl showdown. Steelers versus Cardinals, one of the greatest games ever played. Polamalu had anchored Pittsburgh's top-ranked defense, while Fitzgerald tore up the postseason like a cheat code, racking up 546 receiving yards in just 3 playoff games. Putting them both on the Madden 10 cover felt like EA hedging their bets. If one goes down, maybe the other survives. Well, that's kind of what happened. Troy Polamalu was hit by the curse almost instantly. In the very first game of the 2009 season, he sprained his MCL after a teammate accidentally landed on his leg. He missed 4 games, came back, and then re-injured the same knee, ending his season after just 5 appearances. For a guy known for flying all over the field, it was a brutal setback. That said, it wasn't career-ending. He bounced back in 2010 and made another Pro Bowl, but yeah, the curse got him early. Larry Fitzgerald, on the other hand, he laughed at the curse. That season, he caught 97 passes for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, made the Pro Bowl, and stayed healthy the whole year. Sure, the Cardinals didn't return to the Super Bowl, but Fitzgerald was elite and injury-free. No drama, no disaster, just Larry being Larry. So did Madden 10 break the curse? Not really, it still clipped Polamalu, but it was the first time in years that at least one cover athlete made it through the season unscathed and elite. If anything, it was proof that maybe, just maybe, the curse was starting to lose a little power, but it wasn't done yet. Not even close. At the time, putting Drew Brees on the cover of Madden 11 felt like the safest pick ever. He had just led the New Orleans Saints to their first ever Super Bowl title, thrown for over 4,300 yards, and become a national hero after the city's post-Katrina rebuild. He was smart, accurate, respected, and consistent. If anyone was going to dodge the Madden curse, it was Captain Leadership himself. And at first glance, it looked like he did. Brees threw for 4,620 yards and 33 touchdowns in the 2010 season. Solid numbers. Statistically, he was still elite, but here's where things got strange. That season, Brees also threw a career-high 22 interceptions. He forced throws he usually wouldn't. The offense looked out of sync at times, and the Saints, who were defending champs and expected to make another deep run, were eliminated in the wildcard round of the playoffs by the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks. Yes, the infamous Beastquake game, where Marshawn Lynch stiff-armed an entire city into the turf. So no, Brees didn't tear his ACL or get benched, but the curse didn't exactly leave him untouched either. His interception total spiked, his team regressed, and the Saints' magical momentum from the year before disappeared in a flash. In 2010, Peyton Hillis came out of nowhere. A bruising old-school power back with the Cleveland Browns, Hillis ran for 1,177 yards, caught 61 passes, and bulldozed defenders every Sunday like he was trying to drag the Browns out of 2 decades of misery all by himself. He was fun, relentless, and impossible to bring down, so much so that fans voted him to the Madden 12 cover, beating out superstars like Aaron Rodgers and Michael Vick. It was a Cinderella moment for a fullback turned feature back. Then, everything fell apart. In 2011, his cover year, Hillis missed 6 games with hamstring issues, battled strep throat, sat out due to contract drama, and straight up lost the trust of his coaches and teammates. 1 year after being a Cleveland folk hero, he was being labeled a diva in the locker room. The production vanished. Just 587 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. It wasn't just a slump, it was a cliff. The Browns let him walk in free agency. He bounced from Kansas City to Tampa Bay to the Giants, never topping 400 rushing yards again. By 2014, he was out of the league entirely. Peyton Hillis didn't just get hit by the Madden curse, he became its mascot. A perfect storm of injuries, distractions, and bad timing took one of the most beloved underdog stories in NFL history and buried it just 1 season later, from unstoppable to forgotten all in a year. In 2012, Calvin Johnson was already known as Megatron, a freak of nature who looked like he was built in a lab for the sole purpose of humiliating defensive backs. He had just posted 1,681 receiving yards and was coming off one of the most dominant seasons ever by a wide receiver. So when he won the fan vote and landed the Madden 13 cover, people started whispering, "Is this where it all goes downhill?" Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Calvin Johnson didn't just avoid the curse, he annihilated it. That season, he went out and broke Jerry Rice's single-season receiving yardage record, finishing with 1,964 yards. He caught 122 passes, posted 5 100-yard games in a row, and basically turned every cornerback he faced into a tackling dummy. Even though the Lions finished 4-12, Megatron was untouchable. It was like the cover gave him more power. His biggest curse moment, he only scored 5 touchdowns that year, which is shockingly low for someone putting up nearly 2,000 yards. But that had more to do with Detroit's red zone play calling than anything supernatural. Calvin played 3 more seasons after that, remained elite, and then did the most Megatron thing ever, walked away while still at the top of his game. No decline, no scandal, just peace out, I've done enough. Retiring at age 30 with his body still mostly intact and his legacy unquestioned. So yeah, Calvin Johnson didn't just beat the Madden curse, he stiff-armed it, mossed it, broke its ankles, and walked off like a legend. The curse tried, and Megatron laughed. In 2012, Adrian Peterson did the impossible. Less than a year removed from ACL and MCL surgery, he returned and rushed for 2,097 yards, falling just 8 yards short of breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time record. He was the league MVP, the comeback player of the year, and an absolute monster. So when EA released Madden 25 in 2013 to celebrate the franchise's 25th anniversary, it made perfect sense to put AP on the cover. And just like his running style, Peterson plowed straight through the Madden curse. In the 2013 season, AP rushed for 1,266 yards and 10 touchdowns in just 14 games. A solid follow-up by anyone else's standards. He missed 2 games due to a foot injury and didn't quite hit the numbers from his MVP campaign. But let's be real, that season would have been a career year for most backs. He still made the Pro Bowl, looked explosive, and struck fear into defenses every time he touched the ball. But then came 2014, and while it wasn't the Madden curse, it was something far worse. Peterson was indicted on charges of reckless or negligent injury to a child, stemming from a disciplinary incident involving his son. The case sparked nationwide controversy. The Vikings deactivated him after week 1, and he didn't play again that season. It was a massive fall from grace, not because of football, but because of a very public legal and moral battle. Peterson returned in 2015 and even led the league in rushing again, but the shadow of that scandal never fully left. He played for several more teams, flashed moments of greatness, but the invincible image was gone. When Richard Sherman landed on the Madden 15 cover, he was the guy. He had just led the Legion of Boom to a dominant Super Bowl win over the Broncos, was widely considered the best cornerback in football, and had become a full-blown star thanks to his now iconic "Don't You Ever Talk About Me" rant after the 2013 NFC Championship. Smart, loud, dominant, Sherman earned that cover. And to be fair, his 2014 season, his Madden year, was actually pretty solid. He played all 16 games, logged 4 interceptions, and was named first-team All-Pro. The Seahawks made it back to the Super Bowl and were 1 play away, 1 yard away from repeating as champions. But then came the moment. Super Bowl 49. Seahawks versus Patriots. 2nd and goal. Instead of handing it off to Marshawn Lynch, Seattle throws. Malcolm Butler intercepts it. Game over. Dynasty denied. And while Sherman didn't make the call, didn't throw the pick, and didn't blow the coverage, his reaction on the sideline, his devastated expression became the face of that loss. The Madden curse didn't destroy his season, it gave him the most painful ending possible. After that, Sherman was still good, but injuries started creeping in. He had Tommy John surgery on his elbow after that Super Bowl, battled Achilles issues, and by 2017, his body finally broke down. Seattle released him, and he had a mini comeback in San Francisco, even making another Super Bowl run, but he was never quite the same player. In 2014, Odell Beckham Jr. burst onto the scene like a wide receiver sent straight from the football gods. One-handed catches, breakaway speed, swagger for days. That iconic grab against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, instant legend status. He finished his rookie year with 91 catches, 1,305 yards, and 12 touchdowns, despite missing 4 games. By the time Madden 16 rolled around, putting OBJ on the cover wasn't just smart marketing, it was destiny. But after the cover, that's when things started to get messy. In 2015, Beckham still put up elite numbers, 96 catches, 1,450 yards, 13 touchdowns, but signs of unraveling were already there. He got into a heated, borderline unhinged brawl with Josh Norman, resulting in multiple personal fouls and a 1-game suspension. The incident painted a new picture of OBJ, immensely talented, but emotionally volatile. And that would become a theme. The following years were a mixed bag. More jaw-dropping plays, sure, but also more drama, injuries, and friction with coaches and quarterbacks. He fractured his ankle in 2017 and was never quite the same after. Then came the trade to Cleveland, where things were supposed to reset, but instead turned into a highlight reel of frustration. He couldn't click with Baker Mayfield, dealt with lingering injuries, and became more known for sideline tantrums and social media posts than touchdowns. In 2021, he was released mid-season, signed with the Rams, and finally had his moment, balling out in the playoffs and scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But even that was short-lived. He tore his ACL in the 2nd quarter and missed the entire next season. Another peak, immediately followed by another crash. By 2016, Rob Gronkowski wasn't just the best tight end in football, he was a full-blown juggernaut, a walking mismatch, a linebacker's nightmare, a cornerback's worst-case scenario. He was coming off a season with over 1,100 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns, and he made it all look effortless. Between the stats, the personality, and the Gronk spike, putting him on the Madden 17 cover felt like a celebration of unstoppable fun. But the curse? It was lurking. In his cover season, Gronk suffered a hamstring injury, followed by bruised lungs, and finally a herniated disc that required season-ending back surgery in Week 12. He finished 2016 with career lows, just 540 yards and 3 touchdowns. For a guy who normally put up receiver numbers while throwing defenders into orbit, it was a major letdown. The injuries weren't new for Gronk. His body had always been part machine, part medical mystery, but 2016 really felt like the moment it all caught up. The hits started piling up, the recoveries got slower, and while he returned in 2017 and helped the Patriots win another Super Bowl, it was clear the physical toll was adding up. By 2018, he looked slower, played through pain, and ultimately retired at 29, because in his words, he was not in a good place mentally or physically. That's a wild ending for a guy who, at his peak, looked unbreakable. So did Gronk get hit by the Madden curse? Absolutely, just not in a career-ending way. The 2016 season was a major blow, and it marked the beginning of his slow decline. He still achieved greatness, still made Hall of Fame plays, but the cover year, that's when the invincibility wore off. The curse didn't break Gronk. When Tom Brady was announced as the Madden 18 cover star, a lot of people panicked, not just because of the curse, but because Brady had just completed the greatest Super Bowl comeback of all time. Down 28-3 against the Falcons, he stormed back with over 450 passing yards and 5 scores, cementing his legacy as the greatest quarterback in NFL history. So yeah, putting him on the cover right after that. Bold move. But here's the thing, Brady doesn't do collapse arcs. In his 2017 season, his Madden cover year, Brady led the league in passing yards, tossed 32 touchdowns, and dragged the Patriots to yet another Super Bowl. He was 40 years old, playing like he was 28, and defying not just the Madden curse, but the laws of time and biology. And while New England lost Super Bowl 52 to the Eagles in a shootout, it wasn't Brady's fault. He threw for 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. That game is still the most passing yards in a Super Bowl ever. If that's what the curse looks like, most QBs would take it in a heartbeat. And after that, he just kept winning. Another MVP caliber season, another Super Bowl win in Tampa Bay. The guy laughed at age, he laughed at expectations, and he definitely laughed at the curse. When Antonio Brown landed on the Madden 19 cover in 2018, he was unstoppable. The best wide receiver in football, a 4-time first-team All-Pro, 5 straight seasons of 100-plus catches. He was putting up video game numbers in real life. If anyone had earned a cover, it was AB. But what happened next? No one saw it coming. That 2018 season looked normal on the surface. 15 touchdowns, over 1,200 receiving yards. But behind the scenes, the wheels were already starting to fall off. Brown clashed with Ben Roethlisberger, skipped practices, and threw a football at a teammate during a heated moment in Week 17. He was benched for the final game of the season with playoff implications on the line. That was the beginning of the end. Then came the offseason spiral. He demanded a trade from Pittsburgh, got shipped to the Raiders, showed up to camp with frostbitten feet from a cryotherapy mishap, threw a fit over helmet regulations, got fined, cursed out GM Mike Mayock, and was released before he ever played a game for the Raiders. But wait, there's more. He signed with the Patriots, caught a touchdown from Tom Brady, then was cut after 1 week due to multiple off-field allegations. Suddenly, the league-wide demand for Antonio Brown vanished. The most productive receiver in the league became untouchable. He was a Twitter storm, an Instagram meltdown, a headline machine. From Madden cover star to NFL exile in 1 year. He eventually returned with the Buccaneers in 2020, reunited with Brady, won a Super Bowl, and for a brief moment looked like he'd rewritten the script. But of course, in classic AB fashion, he blew it all up by ripping off his jersey mid-game, storming off the field in New York, and effectively ending his career right then and there. By the time Patrick Mahomes landed on the Madden 20 cover, he was already a football cheat code. In just his second season as a starter, he threw for 5,097 yards, 50 touchdowns, and won league MVP. He was doing no-look passes, 80-yard bombs on the run, and turning broken plays into highlight reels. Mahomes wasn't just the future of the NFL, he was the present. Putting him on the cover felt less like a risk and more like a coronation. And how did he follow it up? By going full supernova. Sure, the 2019 regular season had a hiccup. Mahomes dislocated his kneecap in week 7, briefly sending Chiefs fans into cardiac arrest. It looked like the curse might have finally gotten its guy. But Mahomes missed just 2 games, returned without missing a beat, and went on one of the most dominant postseason runs in NFL history, down 24-0 to the Texans. Mahomes throws 5 touchdowns and wins by 20, down double digits to the Titans, come back, down 20-10 in the Super Bowl with 6 minutes left. Mahomes goes full Mahomes, scores 21 unanswered points, and wins Super Bowl MVP. That's not surviving the curse. That's killing it, burying it, and dancing in the end zone. Since then, Mahomes has only added to his legacy: another Super Bowl win, multiple MVPs, a monster contract, and an argument that he's on pace to become the GOAT if he keeps it up. He even returned to the Madden cover again in Madden 22, sharing it with Tom Brady, proving that if the curse ever did exist, he's immune. In 2019, Lamar Jackson exploded. He led the NFL in touchdown passes, rushed for over 1,200 yards, and became the second unanimous MVP in league history. Only Tom Brady had done that before. He was electric. Defenses couldn't touch him. He turned broken plays into highlights, and the Ravens finished the regular season 14-2. It wasn't just a breakout, it was a takeover. So when he landed on the Madden 21 cover, it felt like a victory lap for the new face of the league. Then came 2020. Statistically, Lamar was fine. He still rushed for over 1,000 yards, tossed 26 touchdowns, and led the Ravens to the playoffs. But the magic didn't feel quite the same. The offense stalled more often, defenses adjusted, his passing numbers dipped, and the playoff struggles continued. In the divisional round against the Bills, Lamar threw a pick 6, got concussed, and the Ravens were eliminated. Just like that, his MVP glow faded a bit. So did the curse destroy him? Not at all, but it did rough him up a little. He didn't fall off a cliff. He didn't flame out, but his cover year marked the beginning of a tougher chapter. Injuries, criticism, and the weight of insane expectations. The world expected Lamar 2019 every season, and anything less felt like a letdown. By 2022, Josh Allen had gone from raw Wyoming prospect to full-blown superstar. He was a 6'5" cannon-armed alien who could hurdle linebackers, launch 70-yard bombs off 1 foot, and carry the entire city of Buffalo on his back. He had just thrown for over 4,200 yards, added another 762 rushing, and looked like the one guy who could consistently go toe-to-toe with Mahomes in a shootout. So when EA gave him the Madden 24 cover, it made sense. He was the face of the Bills' Super Bowl hopes, and maybe the future face of the NFL. But then came the cover year, and it got weird. In 2023, Allen still put up big numbers, over 4,300 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and 15 rushing scores. But the mistakes started piling up. 17 interceptions, multiple fumbles, and questionable decisions in big moments became the norm. The Bills' offense looked off, and Allen's hero ball tendencies went from jaw-dropping to head-scratching. And let's not forget, he was also playing through an elbow injury most of the season that clearly affected his deep ball. The Bills still made the playoffs, but they didn't look like the juggernaut people expected. They flamed out in the divisional round again, and Allen was once again out-dueled. This time, not by Mahomes, but by injuries, turnovers, and a lack of rhythm. So did the Madden curse wreck Josh Allen? Nope, but it definitely gave him a shove. He wasn't a disaster, he wasn't benched, but the timing of his regression, paired with the Madden cover, was a little too convenient to ignore. It was the first season since his breakout that fans started asking, is this guy trying to do too much? Now we all know that Christian McCaffrey did have a season-ending injury shortly after being the cover athlete. That is such an obvious curse moment, I don't feel like it needs much more of an explanation. That is what happened to every Madden cover athlete. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to press the like button and check out our last video about the 10 worst draft day trades in NFL history. We are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers and would love your help.